So I think most people feel like money should be kind of sexy. But I learned that building real wealth is by doing the things that really aren't. In fact, the more boring your money feels, the better you're gonna do. So today I'm gonna share with you 10 of the most boring and very unsexy habits that I do to save serious money. And it's really these tiny daily habits that have made the biggest impact on my finances. And the best part is that they're not really hard to do at all. So let's start with the most boring habit that I think you're gonna be shocked by. But that is eating the exact same food every single week. It really helps make your grocery bill a lot more predictable. We stick to the exact same grocery list every single week, and besides a few sales and maybe grocery inflation here and there, our grocery bill has stayed pretty much the same. And surprisingly, this does not get boring. All you need to do is choose 4 or 5 different recipes that you can rinse and repeat. You'll never stress about what's for dinner. Food gets made at home, so you're not wasting money on DoorDash and eating out. And I think it creates less food waste overall. So it might sound boring and even unhinged to some of you, but I love it and it really works. And if eating the same thing every single week sounded super boring, then you're really gonna think this one is really boring, and that is cleaning out the fridge and the freezer before we go shopping again. And this is something that does feel kind of boring, but again, it reduces on food waste, it minimizes the amount of times that we need to go shopping, and it really teaches you to use what you have. Part of our grocery routine is doing one big Costco haul once a month, where we do buy things in bulk, usually meat, dairy, and eggs. But by the time we are ready to do our big restock, we have pretty much eaten everything in the fridge, freezer, and pantry before we go. Because the less food you waste, the less money you waste. Here, one second, I'll take you on a bit of a fridge tour. So we just recently did a big Costco restock. So we have frozen beef here, we have some frozen veggies, frozen fruits and berries for smoothies. Here I've got some frozen salmon, frozen chicken thighs, chicken breasts. So we're good for a while there. We buy a ton of dairy in bulk, so I feel like the yogurt and the cottage cheese from Costco is just simply the best deal. We always get a bunch of eggs. These last us quite a long time. Another tip, if you do get bored of eating the same thing every week, is just to change up your sauces. So we always keep like a barbecue sauce here. I always have different soy sauces, light soy sauce, dark soy sauce, sriracha, honey, things like that to make a bunch of different sauces. So that will last us a while, but once all that is gone, then that's when we start getting into eating things like tuna, pasta, and we really try to empty everything out before we go and restock again. Basically, when we're getting close to our grocery restock time, we do a use what you have week. And it saves money because I'm grocery shopping less, and it becomes very easy to actually eat what you bought instead of filling up your pantry accumulating things that you're never gonna eat. And speaking of eating everything that you buy, that's where I also stopped buying everything in bulk. I think some of the most common advice I heard to save money was to basically shop at Costco for everything. And I do think buying in bulk and shopping at Costco does save money in certain areas, but at other times it can be more expensive. And if you're not feeding a family of 5, you don't need to buy everything in bulk. Like Jeff and I do eat a lot, so where we do find value and save money is in buying things like most meats, fish, dairy, and eggs from Costco, and maybe, toilet paper. But almost everything else we buy fresh and individually. And that's because if we bought in bulk, again, the food would just go bad and we were gonna waste it. Like I can't tell you how many times I tried buying those bags of avocados from Costco, and we just couldn't keep up with them before they went bad. So especially for food that goes bad, I'll buy 1 or 2 of them and just focus on finishing that first, because you know what? You can food shop for your fantasy self too, and you can think you're gonna eat something and then you never get to it. Because that shit's expensive and we're trying to save money here. And I know eating what you have is not as exciting as DoorDash, and neither is this next habit, but I don't actually feel like I'm sacrificing anything here, and that is with my daily coffee routine. So I find it's not the daily takeout latte that's the problem, it's the spending on autopilot thing. So here's my philosophy when it comes to this. I like to save my cafe spending, sort of my special coffee, for either socializing, or if I'm working from home or something like that, then I like to use it as an excuse to break up my day. Otherwise, I just wouldn't leave the house. That is where I find the most joy in spending money on coffee like that. And that's where spending $6 on a latte actually, adds something to my life. It's about the experience. But for daily survival coffee, one sec, this is gonna get loud. Then I stick to making it at home. And this is not to be like super frugal or anything. It does save money, but it's just to turn my need for coffee, this is my survival habit, it's to make sure that it just doesn't turn into a daily expense and one that just isn't special anymore. I don't want to get so used to buying coffee out all the time that it just doesn't mean anything to me. But that doesn't mean that you can't romanticize your coffee experience at home. I still like to buy the good beans from our local cafe. I make it in a Chemex like this, all pour over in fancy style. Like this is does this feel like 2016, 17 Instagram, YouTube nostalgia? I feel like it was all about coffee montages at that time on YouTube. But I make my coffee like this every single day. And it's nice, it forces you to slow down. I wish you could smell this right now, it is so good. So depending on what beans you buy, you might not save a ton of money here, but it does help with that mindless daily autopilot spending, and it just feels good. And now we wait. This is actually my second coffee of the day. I don't think I actually need this, but we're filming, so. So like I said, I'm not saying don't buy your coffee, buy it if you want to. I just like to buy mine with intention. Okay, so this next habit is going to save you a ridiculous amount of money though, and that is stop shopping to kill time. And you know, this one used to be a tough one for me because I was a full-blown shopaholic for years. Basically, the only way I knew how to spend any moment of downtime I had was by shopping. So things like avoiding shopping on your phone, shopping when you're on your lunch break or have any downtime. It's gonna save you a ton of money because straight up, ignorance is bliss. Because the truth is, the more you let yourself browse, the more you're going to find something to want. And the more that thing is going to take away your attention and your money. And you know what? It is boring because I love to buy stuff. But there were a few things that did help me come up with new habits to replace that boredom shopping. One was to find a hobby that was either challenging or creative. So at the very beginning, I was doing things like making YouTube videos, posting on social media. And nowadays, because I do content more on a full-time basis, I've replaced a lot of my boredom downtime with more challenging hobbies, like going to the gym. I recently ran a half marathon, so I had to do a ton of training for that. And when you're not spending your downtime shopping, you will learn to spend your time doing other things that end up feeling more productive, more fun, more creative, even just like more wholesome in general, things that you can do that make you feel proud and make you feel accomplished. Even something as simple as going on a walk or going to read a book, instead of just filling your time with shopping, it's gonna save you a ton of money, but it's also just going to be so much better and healthier for you over time too. And you know, that is not to say that I don't shop now, because I definitely do, but the other thing I started doing with this boredom scrolling in particular is to set boundaries around it. So for example, I'm not allowed to buy anything if I have just woken up first thing in the morning. I find that used to be a very kind of vulnerable time for me. Other things is like, I can't make a big purchase unless I'm on my laptop, or if I do want to go shopping, which is okay to do, I either schedule it in ahead of time, do it in person, or let myself do it after I've accomplished the things that I want to accomplish for the day. So a combination of setting boundaries and limits around shopping and finding new ways to spend your time. Yeah, it might not be as fun, especially initially, but it's gonna save you a ton of money in the long run. And this really closely relates to my next habit that has really been a game changer in saving me money, and that is simply having a boring weekly routine. Like, if I'm quite honest, I don't live a very exciting life at all. I don't go on a bunch of big vacations, I don't go to events, and I don't mind it. I like it that way. Because the truth is, having a boring routine protects your wallet. Because when I don't have a routine is when I start to sort of just default to the other path of least resistance, which ultimately leads me to my phone, scrolling social media, and then finding something to buy that I didn't even know existed in the first place. It's also where I see people go on amazing trips and go to amazing dinners, and I start to feel this pressure that I need to keep up and do the same thing, instead of just keeping the blinders on and rolling with my routine that's been working for me. And don't get me wrong, because this definitely doesn't mean that I don't want to travel or that I don't like going out to restaurants and trying new things and experiences. But at the end of the day, having a structured and predictable routine that I can fall back on, it keeps me consistent and it keeps me moving in the direction that I want to go. I don't know, I love the boring life. Okay, but now let's get into the next habit, which will not only be a game changer for your wallet, but you're gonna get that glow too. And that is saving money on your skincare and beauty routine. Okay, so listen, if you're trying to get that glow, you do not need a 10, 20, 30 step skincare routine. When I was doing the most for my skin and spending the most money on it, it looked like this. And the moment that I simplified my skincare routine, narrowed it down to around 4 or 5 products, where the majority of them are either from the drugstore or Korean skincare, was when I started to get the skin I actually wanted. Not an ad, this is just what I'm using. This is the skin cleanser that I'm using right now. It is from the drugstore. One bottle is probably under $20, and this has lasted me like half of the year already, and I still have so much left to go. But this is basically my entire skincare routine, morning and night right now. It's affordable, it's effective. I feel like the skin is skinning. So in this case, the more boring, the more simple, the better. And speaking of simplifying your skincare, I think there is something to be said about simplifying your makeup routine too. Because I feel like I had to learn the hard way as a recovering overconsumer that half of the key to saving money is using up what you bought, which for my makeup lovers out there means you gotta do a project pan, AKA just using up your makeup before you buy more. I've actually been doing my own project pan since November of 2024, and if I learned anything, it is that it takes forever to use up a makeup product. Like, I have been working on this concealer for a year and a half, and look at how much I still have left. And the thought of using what you have, it does feel boring. It's always more fun to buy the new thing, to try something else, to change things up. But I do think that instead of just being caught up in buying new stuff all the time, you can create that novelty within the things you already own. Like, I'm gonna tell you, fewer things are more satisfying than hitting pan on a product. Like, look at this. This is a highlighter. I have never hit pan on a highlighter in my life. Look how beautiful that is. Like, that is exciting. This is the farthest thing from boring, in my opinion. And one of my most favorite boring habits of all actually applies to your closet, and that is simply just wearing your clothes. It sounds boring, but being an outfit repeater is going to save you a ton of money, because every time that you wear something from your closet instead of buying something new, you're lowering that cost per wear. A $300 sweater that you wear 30 times is going to be cheaper than a $30 sweater you wore once or not at all. And I would argue that the more you wear your clothes and even repeat your outfits, the more confident with yourself and your personal style that you're going to become. And in the long run, it's just going to help you shop smarter and buy less and better pieces, because you know what you're actually going to wear, and it's as simple as knowing what you like versus what you don't. So as scary as outfit repeating sounds, I think it's actually the key to finding your personal style and saving money while you're at it. Okay, this next habit is something that almost nobody wants to do, but it has truly changed the course of my financial future and has saved me thousands and thousands of dollars over the years, and that is budgeting. So for a lot of you, that's where I'm sure you've clicked out of the video. But for those of you still around, stick with me, because budgeting is going to change your life. Yes, it's boring. Yes, it can feel tedious. Yes, it can even feel overwhelming and intimidating. But once you get it down, it is the #1 key factor that is going to make you feel in control and confident about your finances. I've been budgeting pretty much every single day of my life since 2019, when I first committed to paying off my over $120,000 of student loan debt and overcome that shopping addiction that was keeping me broke. And it's a financial habit that I still do to this very day, even though I paid off my debt almost 4 years ago at this point. But the whole point of budgeting is that it just keeps you on top of your money. It's the only way that you're gonna get an idea of where your money's going, by how much, and more importantly, why. In my budgeting template, I also made it so that you can track your mood alongside your spending, just so you can kind of unlock any patterns there. Because I think it's important to know your emotional state when you're spending too, and trying to spend less. And I also track what purchases I feel like were impulsive versus intentional, just so I can get a better sense of my spending behavior overall. I'll leave it linked down below if you want to go check it out, but no pressure, you do you. So boring? Yes. Sexy? Absolutely not. But it is the one key habit that I think is going to transform the course of your finances. And you budget to track your expenses, to pay your bills on time. And speaking of bills, that's the final habit. Treat yourself like a bill, AKA pay yourself. I can't remember where I saw this. I'm sure it was on TikTok or something, but it said, "You are a bill, so pay yourself like one." And that has truly changed my life. Because here's the thing, paying bills is boring. The last thing I want to do is pay my bills. I want to treat myself. I want to exhibit all of my use of free will on as much fun as I possibly can. But not before I do the very boring habit of paying myself first. Because for years, I was getting the process wrong. I would get paid, and the first thing I would do is pay my rent, pay my bills, pay off my credit card, and then whatever was left over, it's like, okay, well, I worked really hard. I'm gonna go out to dinner now. I'm gonna go treat myself. I'm gonna go shopping. And then I would say, whatever's left over after that, that's what I'm gonna save and invest. But guess what? That never really ended up happening until I started treating myself like a bill and make sure that I paid myself. This I actually have automated, so I don't actually see that money hit my checking account. It just goes right out into my savings and I watch it grow on autopilot. And yeah, paying your future self, it is boring. YOLO is always going to be so much more fun than thinking about your future, but it has to be done. And it's really in the boring stuff that you're going to find the most return. So those are the 10 boring habits that save me serious money. But this only truly works if your money is not a complete mess behind the scenes. So if you feel out of control or overwhelmed with your money, watch this video next where I show you exactly how to declutter it. Kind of the way you would your closet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.